Hi, I'm Evita Myriam, and we will talk about Pythagoras. Pythagoras, according to Madame Blavatsky, Petrovna Blavatsky, um, was such a great guru that humanity has yet to recognize and realize what a great guru he was. Pythagoras was a Greek philosopher, but not only philosopher. Actually, he was the man who coined the word philosophy. He's the first man who ever said, I am a philosopher. And Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates, and all the philosophers after him became not only influenced by him, but they adopted his philosophy, and each um, modified it, and it was like that was the philosophy, and on that they pondered and they gave their own version or view of the same truth, because Pythagoras in reality brought to the world the secret doctrine, the one truth, the reality, you know. And Pythagoras was born in around 590 to 585 BC. That's 6th century before Christ, right? So at that time, there was the 12 gods in Greece. You had the 12 gods, and you didn't have a one god system. There was no one god system. So Pythagoras also brought monotheism, the belief in the one God, to the West. And at the time when everybody was praying to goddess Athena, to Apollo, etc., and he was too, he was because they are devas, Pythagoras made prayers before dinner, and the prayers that he taught his students ended in amen. And amen is from Amon Ra, because the whole philosophy of Pythagoras was about the truth, right, is about the heliocentric model of the universe, which means that you have the central universal sun, you have smaller suns, galactic suns, then you have solar system suns, and they're all informed, by the universal sun, the central universal sun, and there are many universes, right? So the sun is like the part of God that informs, is the visible aura of God, is the particle of God, but in a big scale, right? That informs everything and creates life, because without the sun, there would be no life. So because light, according to Pythagoras and his followers, light is not only information, it is force. Force, as we have seen in Arithmosophy, means the forces are the qualities, the energies, the circumstances, the events. The forces are not just, events. They're not just um, like the forces that are violent or the forces that are peaceful. They're forces the forces are qualitative energies that create matter, right? They are materialized. So light is is the originator of all this, and the sun produces light. So Pythagoras, when he was he must have been incarnated at least the fourth initiate, because he remembered his past incarnations. He told of 4 of his past incarnations, and he said he gave proof. He said, for example, in this city, in the other side of the world, because then to go, for example, from Greece to Egypt, which is not such a huge trip, it's not an enormous trip. So to go from Greece to Egypt, it took months, right? May have taken half a year or so, or more. So it was months on a boat. And people would take these kind of trips with huge dangers and perils, and there were, so people would not travel as we do now. One travel was a very big deal. Of course, then when in Greece, for example, if someone arrived in Greece, the best they would give him a traveler, would be received immediately. They would take them to be washed first, So, I mean, the rich people would welcome the traveler, and a prince or a king, or depending on the status of the traveler, that would, you know, host them, and then they would take them to the baths. Then they would take baths. Then they would offer them dinner. Then they would give a symposium on their behalf. Then they would talk and exchange news. So this is how information worked. There were no newspapers, no media, nothing. So imagine at the time when there was no other way to pass information other than to travel, to walk, to go on a donkey, to go on a horse, or to walk for months, and hear stories and have the good luck to meet the right people, right, who will tell you these stories. Of course, we attract what we are. So Pythagoras attracted the best kings and the best of the best. So the only way was this. So at this time, Pythagoras said that in that place, where he had never gone, there is a shield on the temple, and the shield has this writing, and this is my shield that I left there as an offering in the past incarnation. And in the incarnation before that, I did this and that. And this was corroborated by people while he was alive who went to these places to get the evidence. So this is amazing, and I believe him in any case, because that's nothing compared to the miracles and what he did. So at a very young age, he was born in Samos, a Greek island, and then at a very, very young age, he left. And because he had a vision, he was meditating, obviously, and he had a vision. He was meditating to Demeter, the earth goddess, Demeter. So he was meditating to her, and he was given an instruction to go to Egypt to study the inner law of nature. Now, the inner law of nature, another way in which the great teachers name the divine law, is the law of nature. So why? Because everything in nature, I mean, now we live in, let me just say first that now we live in times when science is trying to find something new, and a new theory, and a new drug, and a new experimentation to find something new and how to cure this. But they're not doing the obvious thing, which is, if you want to cure something, you have to find the root cause, which is psychological, which is deep, and you have to change life in such a way so that there will be no illness. Illness doesn't always have to happen. If we just observe nature, nature is in balance, right? So Pythagoras knew that. All the wise people knew that nature is created in a divine design that was impeccable, right? There's nothing. I mean, I saw this David Attenborough tiny video the other day that the esoteric astrologer Philip Lindsay he put up on Facebook, and I was astounded because it showed that they had put an electrode on the flower, so the flower did you see that they caused a sound, and then when the bee arrived, when they joined, there was no sound because they had opposite polarities, and then the pollen jumped on the bee, right? And then the bee had no sound. So when the next bee went, it gave the information that there is no nectar. So this is how nature is. Like, for example, in autumn, early autumn, late summer, actually in Greece, in middle of summer, we have by law to cut all the weeds in our gardens, right? We have to cut it down. Whatever is dry, we have to cut it down for preventing fires. But at the same time, there is, there is this natural law that when it rains, all these how do you call this, essences, the smells of the flowers that are dry with the first rain of autumn. The beautiful smell of the first rain, that it smells amazing. That is healing the entire area, because the bird somehow knows how to drop the poop with the seed at the right place, so the right plant will grow, that will heal the illness of the person who lives at that place. And you know why they know how to do that? Because it is it's like nature is always trying to balance itself. It's always trying to balance. So if there is, let's say, purple prana missing, the purple prana will come. If there is this substance missing, this quality will come, and nature is tending to balance itself. We see the same in arithmosophy. Every number is amazing, but when you have it in excess, when you like number one, innovator, but it can become arrogant, tyrannical, right? So it needs to cooperate. So everything in excess, everything needs to find balance. Finding balance is one of the wisest things for a human being. But nature has this. Everything is, perfectly designed. And instead of observing nature and finding solutions, we're trying to find unnatural ways to heal things, and that doesn't heal anything, it creates more problems. But Pythagoras knew that. And he was the first man who ever said that we need to observe nature, and he founded the beginning of all the natural sciences. So he started to observe. He was an amazing astronomer, he was an amazing music theorist, mathematician. He was a physicist. So before we go to what he discovered, I just want to tell you very briefly that he went to Egypt through this perilous long trip on a boat, and they were going to kill him, actually. They jumped him. They were trying to kill him, but then there was this big storm, and he quieted the sea. So they needed him. So a king was on the boat, and he was really impressed, and then invited him, and actually got him admitted into the Memphis priests and the Giza pyramid, right? So he was in the Giza pyramid, in the mystery school of arithmosophy of Egypt. That was, yes, I think it was. I'm not sure it was the Giza pyramid. I think it was a Giza pyramid that everyone studied, right? So it was, so he studied there, and of course, he studied meditation, he studied the mysteries, the esoteric truths, and he studied also mathematics, and he learned the numbers in Egypt and Babylon. Then another ruler came to Egypt, and they exiled him to Babylon. And he was so lucky because he was exiled, because he met his wife in Babylon, And his wife was Theano. She was a genius. She had discovered that the spheres meaning the planets, they have music, they create music. And he started to, this was the foundation, because he was studying music theory, and this was the foundation of another theory of his that said that everything, that the whole universe is like a musical instrument that is reverberating, and vibrating, and that the planets make heavenly music as they move. And this is true. Let's not go there, because I have so much to tell you about this, but there is a whole seminar for every one of his discoveries, right? So then after Babylon, in Babylon, he studied under Zoroaster's, and he studied under Hebrew rabbis, and he studied the Kabbalah. He learned the sacred art of invocation. And then he went to India. Of course, first he had studied in Delphi, right? under Pherekides in Greece before leaving. Pherekides and a woman, I don't remember her name, Aristomenia, or I don't remember, I'm not sure. She was his mentor. Then he went to Egypt, then to Babylon, and then he went to India. You know, now if you ask a university that is acclaimed university, did Pythagoras go to India? They will say to you, no, why would he go to India, right? It is not scientifically proven. And yet, I have found that in the Bhagavad Gita, the description of the numbers in the Bhagavad Gita are the same exactly. For example, number 3 is the one and the many. This is the way that Lord Vyasa in the Bhagavad Gita calls the number 3. And this is the same way that the old Pythagoreans named the numbers. The Pythagoreans used the Bhagavad Gita definitions for the numbers. And then Pythagoras, according to the leading professor of philosophy at the Greek university, Mr. George Sakellariou, who wrote the most amazing book on Pythagoras ever. It is called Pythagoras, the Teacher of the Eons. And this is an amazing book. This man is like an arhatic yogi. His interpretations are incredible. He's a very advanced soul. Now he's passed away, but he wrote this amazing book. So according to him, Pythagoras definitely did meet the Buddha, you know. I mean, in Wikipedia, they have 2 dates for the birth of the Gautama Buddha. And I was thinking, it's not possible because, you know, Pythagoras brought the law of karma to the West. He brought union with a higher soul. He brought vegetarianism. He brought, in essence, he brought the Eightfold Path. And then Helena Blavatsky says that, in essence, Pythagoras brought the Buddha teachings to the West, and they both taught the same thing. And she also says that Pythagoras, not only the Buddha influenced Pythagoras, but Pythagoras influenced the Buddha because he was older and he was a wise man, so for sure. And according to Mr. Sakellariou, they met, and he also met Confucius. And there's no doubt. In my mind, there's no doubt the whole teachings of Pythagoras are Buddhist teachings. It's the one truth, right? So then Pythagoras came back and he went to Italy and he founded the city of the chosen in Crotona, in Metapontium, in the south of Italy. He founded this the city of the chosen, and 2,000 people came to be his students. Can you imagine 2,000 people at the time when there was no media? 2,000 people, among them kings, sold part of their properties. They could have property. And after a 5-year silence trial, they could enter the ashram and live there. 5 years of silence. Only the ones who had a life path 7 could enter straight away. Right? You remember that? And then they had this the whole lifestyle there. It was a group life. It was like Bovina, like an ashram, you know, like an ashram. It was in the morning they would do exercise and they would do studies and all that, and then they would do studies in the ashram, and then they would sit and pray to the God, to the one God, to the gods, and to the heroes like Lord Rama, for example, the heroes, Hercules. They prayed to the heroes, and in silence, in absolute silence. And that ashram was called Om Akoion. Om Akoion. Akoion means where you hear the Om, like Om Akoion. So the Greek scholars, for some reason which I cannot understand, they do not attribute, those that I have read, perhaps someone does, but the leading ones, they do not attribute the word omakoion to the Om, because the Om is a Buddhist thing, so they don't think it is relevant. because Pythagoras is a leading ancient Greek scholar, philosopher. So they say that it means where I hear my teacher, like omu, aku, which is like really no, om akoyan, where you hear the om. And only when you meditate, you can know that this is the truth. So that's, and Pythagoras had this following rules in his ashrams. He said, in the morning when you wake up, you have to decide what you will do with your day. You don't want your day to take you and lead you. You want to make a plan. So this is part of, it's something that you may find in Arhatic yoga as well, right? And then before you sleep, you have to remember what you've done, and you have to congratulate yourself for the good things and reprimand yourself for what you've done wrong. Every night, you have to think of the day and remember. So this is from Pythagoras. Another thing that he did, so then they did exercises, physical exercise. We don't know about any other exercise. They're not recorded. And they also did meditation. They sat in silence and communicated with their teachers. And their goal was to reach communication and union with the soul. So that is really the origin of yoga, of union with the soul. Yoga means union with the soul, right? So that was the life in the ashram. Then they prayed. They all ate in tables of 10 people each table. They read before they ate. They ate in silence. They could speak, but not be silly. It was a solemn eating. For them was a ceremony. And before they prayed, and they said, Lord God, to the one Heavenly Father, to the one Father. Can you imagine? In the time of 12 gods, they prayed to the one Father, and in the end they said Amen, which means Amon Ra, which is the Sun God, right? So, and they said, Heavenly Father, etc. Thank you for giving us this food that is. We have got this food without killing anything and without harming anything. Because even the plants, when you take fruits and vegetables, you don't take the whole plant. Usually you just take the fruit or the vegetable, right? The product. It is, so they didn't eat meat. They didn't kill anything. They didn't wear leather. They wore linen and cotton only, and robes of linen and cotton. And they didn't wear leather. They didn't eat meat. Perhaps they drank milk, but I don't know exactly. They did drink a little bit of wine. Now, so this, and in the evening, Pythagoras would do his teachings. He would teach, so this was the ashram life. Then toward the end of his life, I don't want to speak about the negative things, because then somebody who was jealous, he set fire to the whole ashram and to all the ashrams, all the little, because he had freed. Pythagoras would go to cities that were enslaved by tyrants, because then the countries were smaller. There were regions, right? They were not Italy, Greece. They were regions. And he would go, he freed 39 cities from the tyrants through his speech. He was a political orator, amazing. And then they would see him in two places at the same time, He would be performing purifications of the place and healings. And so when this happened, when somebody burned all the places where he was teaching, and he was not there. He was not there. He was somewhere else. A few people died. Pythagoras was the only one who accepted women as students, also. Most of his students fled. And he lived, I don't remember where he was. He was in another island. I think he fled to he was there for some reason. Of course, he had divine guidance to leave for some reason. And he left. So let me just tell you a few things that he did, right? I mean, this is his general work, but I want to tell you a few things that he did. All right, you know about the Pythagoras theorem, which is to find the hypotenuse ratio. Okay. So I'm not going to tell you about everything. He found like the 5 regular solids, the earth cube, the octaedron, the decaedron. He found so many theories and, immense. I will just tell you the most incredible ones. All right, just the most amazing ones. Right. He found the fact that the earth was round. He was the first one who said that. And he said that, and then on the 3rd century AD, this was affirmed, or BC, I don't know, AD, this was affirmed by someone else, and then, it was known to us in the Middle Ages. He found, he found the law of gravity, and Isaac Newton gave him credit for that. He said this comes from Pythagoras. But just imagine if you're a scientist in the Middle Ages, I don't know how many, like 2,000 years later, because Pythagoras lived 2,600 years ago. When was Newton? In the 1600s, 1600s. So I don't remember, but he was 1700s. So that was much later, right? And even then, they didn't have, they had manuscripts. So just to find, to have this theory building in your head, ideas come from above. They're not ours. So to have this idea about gravity and the apple that fell on his head or in front of him and gave him the idea, and then he started working on the idea, and then he probably found the forces of gravity described by Pythagoras. And then he corroborated and he said, yes, I got this from Pythagoras, which to me is amazing, right? It's incredible. So one thing, another thing that he found that was amazing was the fact that the morning star and the evening star is Venus, is the same star, the morning star and evening star that is very bright. It's Venus, it's the same star. So that was another thing that he discovered. He was a great astronomer. Of course, his forte, the best thing for him, the highest science was mathematics. He brought the numerals from Babylon to the West. He brought the numerals. But the Pythagoreans, but he didn't just bring the numerals. He was the father of mathematics in many ways, because the Pythagoreans, they wrote numerals with dots, they wrote like 1, then 2, then 3. The 3 was like a triangle, then 4 was like a square. So, the numbers were like geometry, because when you have them in, like 1 dot is 1, 2 dots, 3 dots make 3 dots make a triangle, right? 4 dots make a square. So the way that's how he wrote numbers then. So that's how the Pythagoreans, because they created geometry as well. It was not just mathematics. But for him, numbers had 3 levels. That's where he took numbers, because numbers were given to him. The meaning of the divine essence of numbers was certainly taught to him. But numbers have 3 levels. The base level is the level where we weigh things, we measure things, etc. Then there is a second level of numbers, of mathematics, that is the theoretical level. That's where numbers have qualities, as in arithmosophy, and by which we can know everything. And then the third level is the level where numbers have the divine, you can see the divine essence of numbers. And that's where numbers not only show the divine essence, it means the story of the world. Like number 1, came in, the light, the first wave of creation. And then number 2, for example, the matter, is symbolized by 2. So it tells the story of life. It is amazing. It's not just, it's the divine essence of numbers is very, it's the highest interpretation of numbers, right? The cosmogony aspect of the numbers, and the magical properties of the numbers in the good sense, right? So Pythagoras said that through numbers we may know everything. You can obtain all truth through numbers. And the mathematicians were the higher level. When you were in his ashrams, the mathematicians were on a higher level. And then there was another level higher than that was those who could hear. Now, what could they hear, right? They could hear divine guidance during meditation. That's what it means, the ones who could hear. And acoustiki means those, all right. And akuo in Greek means hear. En means one. And acoustiki, hearing the one, right? So, and in Greek, for example, when we say όραση means sight. En όραση means clairvoyance. En akoi means hearing. En akoi means clairaudience, etc. So, but in Greek, the etymology of the clair, like clairaudience, clairvoyance, is not clair, but it's one, God, right? The oneness. So that's what they heard. So that was a higher level of students. So another thing, so mathematics was, for him, it was everything. Numbers, for Pythagoras, you have to understand, and not only for Pythagoras, this is the truth. Numbers were created simultaneously with everything. It is like everything in its essence had a number. Numbers showed the essence of everything. They were not just a language by which you could interpret things. They were one with the essence. And in reality, there's only light. There is only light. So numbers are the essence of the light and of the events and of the forces. Someone said, one of his later Pythagoreans, after hundreds of thousands of years, said that when numbers are active, when forces are active, then they become they're mathematics. And then when they're resting, the forces, then they're geometry. They become geometry. So it's like this, geometry and mathematics are states of being, of the essence of life in reality. Okay. So then, what else he discovered? He discovered the atomic theory. He was the one, this is the most mind-blowing information, all right? Pythagoras said that there is an indestructible particle, right, of energy, of the energy essence, which connects and gives properties to all matter by its connections, all right? And then I think it was Niels Bohr, who was the first one who started talking about the division of the atom, right? So then they divided the atom. But what they divided was not the atom, because Pythagoras said it's indestructible, indivisible. Atom in Greek means that which cannot be divided. But of course, if you don't know what it means, then you will say, oh, we divided the atom. No, they did not divide the atom. They divided something else, which they have not named yet. And it's very significant, right? Because it contains electrons, and so they should name it. But what Pythagoras was talking about was quantum physics. He was talking about the indestructible particle that is indivisible. And by its connections, it's the essence of everything. And it connects and gives properties to all matter, right? So that's what it was. I don't understand why it's not well known that the atom is quantum. It's not what they say. I mean, modern science is built on a series of huge mistakes that they serve only the egos of the scientists, who created this. According to Pythagoras, all one had to do was observe nature and understand how nature worked. There are laws of nature. Anyway, so he discovered the 5 climatic zones, the North Frigid, Arctic, the North Temperate, the Torrid Zone, the South Temperate, the South Frigid, Antarctic. These are still from Pythagoras. He discovered that musical notes could be translated into mathematical equations. Mozart wrote, I think, the weddings of Figaro from this, um, from Pythagoras, and I know that Bach wrote everything with the number 14. So I'm sure it relates, right? He also finds the perfect fifth. The perfect fifth is the way that we still tune the piano, we still use. It's not 100% accurate, but it's the closest, easiest accurate ratio. So also he found that the canon in architecture, right, that there's a mathematical relation behind aesthetic perfection. He believed in symmetry. He said symmetry shows divinity. And in esoteric arithmosophy, you remember the arithmosophy with the palindromes that I have found the proofs of arithmosophy. This is proof of what he meant, like symmetry, because you have the palindromes. So many things were, the Pantheon in Rome, the Porta Maggiore Basilica were built by Pythagorean numerology. We said also the heliocentric model of the universe. So Johannes Kepler also, he claimed it was Pythagoras' doctrine of musica universalis, which is the universal music, that led to his discovery of the laws of planetary motion. What else? What else? Philosophy. He was the first man who said he's a philosopher. Now, current atomic theory, according to Brian Greene, superstring theory, says that every particle is composed of a tiny filament of energy that vibrates, that is shaped like a little string and vibrates in different, so they join and they vibrate in different patterns. So it's exactly what Pythagoras said. And that is the current theory that about how the world works. What else? Yeah, he discovered so many things. It's impossible to talk about everything. He's considered he was the first one who said that the brain is the seat of human consciousness, right? And he started to talk about psychology and how people should, and anthropology, and how people should start observing their thoughts and observing their emotions. So many things. Of course, he was an amazing herbalist. He healed through his lyre, playing the music. He healed the chakras and all the ailments. He played the music that healed the particular ailment and the particular organ. So let's not go into more. He influenced everyone. I don't want to say go to everyone. So let's go to the legends, right? So we don't have it heavy. Let's wrap it up quickly. And not quickly, but I will tell you about the legends, which are very exciting, and about his incarnations. So the legends about Pythagoras, which I believe all of them. First of all, Pythagoras said he's the son of Apollo, right? So Apollo is the god who relates to the higher soul, right chakra. So that's Apollo. So there is a legend that Apollo said that Pythagoras was the wisest of men. And of course, at his time, he was the wisest of men. I mean, in Isis Unveiled, Helena Blavatsky has so many references on Pythagoras and on how he has influenced the world and how he's not recognized at all. It's incredible. Aristotle writes that Pythagoras, in a certain Olympic Games, someone said that, no, you're not the son of Apollo, and doubted him. And then Pythagoras flushed his thigh, and his thigh was golden, right? And we believe that because we know that it's possible to create a golden body. And I know a certain master who has passed, and he also had some gold on his body that was visible. So then there's another legend that the priest of Apollo gave Pythagoras a magic arrow, which he used to fly in long distances and perform ritual purifications. Now, we don't know how this worked. Perhaps it was a technique by which he used in order to really go far. But his students, he had 3 or 4 really close disciples, and one of them stopped um, storms, the other one stopped the wind, the other one brought rain, I mean, they had these names, like the windbreaker and the, so they had all amazing capabilities, superpowers. He was often seen in 2 places at the same time. This is another legend. I believe that, right? It's not so, I mean, I cannot do it, but I am sure many people can. Now, another legend says that the river Basento, which is of the area, greeted him by name when he crossed. And I will tell you that is possible. You know why? Because wind and water can become the instruments of the Gandharvas. The Gandharvas are the devas of music. They can become instruments for the angels to create sound. So I believe that, I believe that this is possible. They say that he was born with a golden wreath atop of his head. Now that has many meanings, right? One meaning can be that he had a halo, but I think it's the wreath of virtues. That means, there is the wreath of virtues. He had all his virtues there intact because he was a saint already. There's a legend that he once convinced a destructive bear that killed people. He talked to it and convinced it to never kill again, and the bear never killed again, became peaceful. And there was a bull that used to eat beans and he get angry, and he convinced the bull to never eat beans again. I mean, all right. People who love animals can talk to them and animals can understand. But of course, he influenced the aura of the animal, right? I mean, I believe this 100%. According to Muslim tradition, Pythagoras was initiated by Hermes. And in the entrance of his ashram, he had Hermes statue. So he worshipped Hermes, right? He was a student of Hermes. Now about his incarnations, right? Pythagoras, he said that he was, as I said, he knew his past incarnations. He said he was Ethalides, a son of Hermes, and Hermes offered him to choose any gift except immortality. And Pythagoras asked to leave him immortality, meaning in the body, right? Because the soul is immortal, And Pythagoras asked to have him to give him memory, to let him have memory of all his lives, both when he was alive and when he was dead. So he remembered his incarnations because he was more than a saint. Probably in that incarnation, he either became a 5th initiate or he was a 4th initiate and working toward the 5th initiation, at least. Because later he was a 5th initiate, who I will tell you. So before before the incarnation of Pythagoras, of being Pythagoras, he was a fisherman. So that was a vacation incarnation where I suppose, he was a different kind of fisherman, right? But it was an incarnation for him to be at peace and to collect his forces, I suppose. Um, they say that Pythagoras accurately predicted earthquakes and quickly stopped epidemics. Blessing, right? He averted rain and hailstorms, tamed rivers and sea waves. Since he was 18, he could stop the storm. Um, his students that could perform the same miracles, they learned. Miracles are laws of nature, according to Master Choa, right? So Empedocles, one of his close students, disciple, is called the wind blocker. Epimenides is the purifier, and Abaris is the wind runner, right? That's great. So let's see, his other incarnations, other incarnations after he was Pythagoras in the 1st century, of course, when baby Jesus was born, he was Balthazar, right? The king of Ethiopia, one of the 3 magi who traveled to honor baby Jesus, and he brought him incense, the purification, right? It's fantastic. Then in the 12th century, he was Saint Francis of Assisi. And, Christianity then was gloomy, Middle Ages, terrifying. Christianity was what people were afraid of in reality. And then he brought happiness to Christianity, and millions of followers, flocked back to Christianity because people were terrified of Christianity. So this is why both the Catholic and the Orthodox Christians, they honor Saint Francis of Assisi, because without him, there would be no Christian religion right now, without Saint Francis. Saint Francis was the most important saint, because at the time when they had witch burnings, and I don't know exactly in the 12th century what they were doing, but you can imagine Christianity was very dark at this time, right? They had to pay all their money, the people, in order to get forgiveness, like you will go to heaven note and all that. So they suffered a lot from the church, and he brought happiness, back to the church, and love. Then another incarnation, very important, was the Shah Jahan. He was the one who built the Taj Mahal, right, for his beloved wife, the Taj Mahal in India, in Agra. Uh, so the Taj Mahal, that was the 16th century, and the Taj Mahal, was of the how do you call that? The tomb of his wife, Mumtaz, who died during the labor of their 14th child. They had 14 children together. Now, as a Shah Jahan, Pythagoras again restored his grandfather's noble ethics to India. And his grandfather was Akbar the Great. And he built many beautiful buildings. He gave money to the arts. He did great things. He brought ethics back to India. And he loved his wife. In every incarnation, he appreciated women. In ancient Greece, you could not, women, only the heteres, only the women who were servants and educated servants, like geishas, only those women could participate in symposiums and listen to men talking. They were not allowed. So only the very well-educated geishas could, participate. Pythagoras had students who were women. He believed in equality of women, and he loved women. And he loved his wife, and he built this beautiful, I don't know if you've seen Taj Mahal. It's immensely beautiful and symmetrical, and it is reflected in a pond. It's beautiful, with lilies. And in 1875, he was Lord Kutumi Lal Singh. Lord Kutumi, who was Ascended Master, Faith Initiate, Lord Kutumi, who together with El Moria established the of the First Ray, established the Theosophical Society. Of course, Lord Kutumi is the Ascended Master of the Second Ray. Helena Blavatsky later became the leader of the society, right? Um, so Lord Kutumi was a Kashmiri Brahmin. He was born in Punjab, and he became Brahman in Tibet and traveled for his time extensively. And he attended both Oxford University and then at Leipzig in Germany. These were the best two universities in the world, right? So, and now he's in the higher planes and he has a house, right? And he has an organ that takes room, part of the houses in the higher plains are small. They're not big, but they're beautiful. So he has an organ, like the organ, the church organ, the huge instrument, the organ, that takes up more than the main room of his house, and then it goes into his study. It continues. And in collaboration with the Gandharvas, who are the devas of music, when he plays it, he produces divine sounds that we have not heard on earth through the strings and the wind, the Gandharvas play. And he says, Lord Kutumi says to us that the song of the Devas is ever being sung in the world. It is ever sounding in men's ears, but we do not listen to its beauty. And this is true. You have to be very purified, very pure. And you have to be very devotional to believe, to be in the magic, in the mystery, to find spirituality the most important thing in life. So this was can you imagine? I mean, he was the man who brought all this. He didn't only bring he studied with Brahmins, right, in India, but he didn't only bring the Buddha's teachings. He also influenced the Lord Buddha. One of the masters of pranic healing was saying the other day that the Buddha is whole, sometimes he's seen with a fabric at his arm that has pleats, these gentle pleats. They indicate the flow of light, of wisdom, the flow of energy. So this is the interpretation, the meaning. Everything is an allegory. Everything is an allegory, right? Everything is symbolical. So the Buddha was holding this, and this is a Greek thing. He was holding a Greek fabric in his hand. So the Pythagoras also influenced the Buddha. And Elena Blavatsky mentions that as well. So this is really a synopsis, this is really an abbreviation of what Pythagoras has done. He has influenced also all the schools. He has influenced the Thomas Aquinas, Francis Bacon, all the great minds. Aristotle, of course, and Plato were like of course, the Transcendentalists, and the Illuminati. The Illuminati, they were not always bad. I mean, the Illuminati, they were illuminated, right? They were intelligent. What it means, like Da Vinci, right? He was an Illuminato. So, which means he was illuminated. He had arrived at illumination, or, partial illumination, as we call it. To see the light, to meditate, to know we have an energy body, to know we have chakras, to know the truth, the energy truth. So they were not bad, but it seems that at one point they were double-crossed badly by the church, probably by someone in power or by the church, and that's where they turned against religion. And it's a pity because religion you know has made so many horrible, has created so much suffering in the world. And it would be wonderful if every human being, every nation could turn to spirituality, because spirituality is the truth. And religion is divisive. It would be nice if everybody could believe in their religion, but we respected each other's religion. But if the hierarchy on the top of the religion would of each religion um, could tell the truth to the people, the truth about the energy body, about the law of karma, that we have, what we do will come back to us, etc. So let us hope that all these people who have been betrayed and turned negative, that they will just become compassionate and serve humanity, because there are so many people they live in ignorance, and they're symbolized by the sheep, the masses. So it would be wonderful if the masses would wake up and see that there's a higher truth to their existence. It's not just about materialism. It's not just about buying things. Life is not about that. There are many incarnations. We come and go. One more thing that Pythagoras brought to the West was the law of reincarnation, the transmigration of the souls. Um, so having said that, I suppose, uh, that doesn't excuse evil doings. I mean, if someone turns bad because someone has hurt them, that doesn't excuse them in my mind, right? Or in anyone's mind. But all I'm saying is that um, there is a story, very quickly. Krishnamurti was once, Lord Krishnamurti was once in the battlefield, the actual battlefield, and there was a battle, and he was in the side of the dark forces. And then across him, in the side of the light forces, of the good people, the good ones, he recognized all his friends, right? All his people, whom he had never met in that incarnation before. He recognized them, and then he laid down his weapons and he got killed. But at least he died doing the right thing. And there is no death. I mean, death is just a phenomenon. Phenomenon in Greece means that which appears. It's not the truth. It's what shows, what appears. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this seminar. I'm going to post it on my, I'm going to post it on everywhere so you find it. Thank you for joining.